Every summer, gardeners spend a small fortune spraying chemicals to fight off bugs that are eating their tomatoes, chewing their cabbage, and rotting their roots. But what if the cheapest packet of flower seeds at the store could do the same job for pennies? It turns out certain flowers are natural bodyguards for your vegetables. Plant these 7 and watch 15 of the worst garden pests pack up and leave. So grab a trowel and let's dig in. Number 1, French marigolds. If there's one flower that has earned near legendary status among gardeners, it's the French marigold. And unlike a lot of garden folklore, this one is actually backed by decades of hard science. The secret is a compound French marigolds produce in their roots called alpha-terthienol. It's one of the most toxic, naturally occurring substances ever identified against plant parasitic nematodes. And nematodes are our first pest on the list. Root knot nematodes are microscopic worms living in your soil, and they are a nightmare. They burrow into the roots of tomatoes, peppers, melons, and squash, forming ugly galls and knots that choke off the plant's ability to drink water and take up nutrients. You water and water, and your plants still wilt and turn yellow because the plumbing underground is wrecked. They're especially brutal in the south and anywhere with sandy soil. Here's where the marigold comes in. When you plant French marigolds, the alpha-terthienol seeps out of their living roots and into the surrounding soil. A mother nematode may still crawl into the marigold's roots, but her offspring won't survive, which cripples the next generation. Agricultural field trials have documented up to 99% suppression of root knot nematodes when French marigolds are grown as a cover crop. That's not a folk remedy. That's a number that would make a chemical company jealous. But there's a right way to do it. To really knock down a nematode problem, you want to plant French marigolds thickly across the whole bed, 2 months or so before you plant your vegetables in that exact same spot. Just tucking one marigold next to a tomato won't cut it, because the nematodes will simply feed on the tomato instead. Think of it as a soil cleanse before planting season. That's pest number 1 handled. But marigolds aren't done yet, because they also give off a compound called limonene into the air, and research out of Newcastle University confirmed that this measurably repels whiteflies, which brings us to pest number 2. Whiteflies are those tiny, ghostly white insects that explode into a cloud when you brush a tomato plant. They suck the sap right out of your leaves and leave behind a sticky residue that grows sooty mold. The scent of marigolds helps mask your vegetables and drive these little vampires elsewhere. Not bad for a seed packet that costs about $1. Number 2, nasturtiums. Our next cheap flower works on a completely different and honestly kind of ruthless principle. Instead of repelling pests, the nasturtium volunteers to be eaten. This is called a trap crop. The idea is simple. Nasturtiums are so irresistible to certain bugs that the pests flock to the nasturtium and leave your actual vegetables alone. You're basically throwing the bad guys a decoy buffet. The number 1 customer at that buffet is the aphid, which is pest number 3. Aphids are soft, pear-shaped insects that cluster on stems and the undersides of leaves by the hundreds, draining plants and spreading disease. Plant a few nasturtiums 6 feet or so away from your prize crops, and the aphids will pile onto the nasturtium leaves instead. When a plant gets overrun, you just snip off the infested leaves and toss them in the compost. Way less heartbreaking than watching aphids destroy your beans. Nasturtiums are also famous for luring away the cabbage white butterfly, pest number 4. You've seen these, the pretty white butterflies fluttering around every summer garden. The problem is they lay their eggs on cabbage, kale, and broccoli. And those eggs hatch into green caterpillars that can strip a broccoli plant down to a bare stem in days. There aren't many other plants these butterflies find as tempting as nasturtiums, so they'll lay their eggs on the flower instead. One gardener reported growing nasturtiums right under her broccolini, and the caterpillars stayed down below, feasting on the flowers while the vegetables were spared. While we're on caterpillars, that same trap effect works on the cabbage looper, Pest number 5. These are the small inchworm-style green caterpillars that arch their backs as they crawl and chew ragged holes through cruciferous crops. A good rule of thumb is 1 nasturtium for every 4 cabbage family plants. Nasturtiums are also disliked by squash bugs, pest number 6. These flat, shield-shaped brown insects are the bane of anyone growing zucchini, pumpkins, or melons. They pierce the vines and can cause the whole plant to collapse. Squash bugs tend to avoid nasturtiums and anything growing near them, so ringing your squash patch with a few plants gives your vines a fighting chance. And finally, nasturtiums pull double duty against flea beetles, pest number 7. Flea beetles are tiny black beetles that jump like fleas when disturbed and pepper your leaves with dozens of little shot holes, hitting eggplant and brassicas hard. The beetles would rather chew on nasturtium foliage than your eggplant, so the flower takes the hit. Just keep an eye on the trap plants because if they get totally overwhelmed, you'll want to treat or remove them before the population spills back over. 1 flower, 5 pests. And you can eat the leaves and flowers too, which taste like spicy watercress. Number 3, sweet alyssum. If nasturtium is the sacrificial decoy, sweet alyssum is the recruiter. This low carpet-forming flower with tiny white blooms doesn't fight pests directly at all. Instead, it calls in an army of professional killers to do the work for you. Those killers are hoverflies, and they are the reason sweet alyssum is one of the most respected pest control flowers in commercial agriculture. Adult hoverflies look a bit like small bees hovering around flowers, but they're harmless and feed only on pollen and nectar. The magic is in their offspring. Hoverfly females need pollen to produce eggs, and they lay those eggs right next to aphid colonies. When the larvae hatch, they turn into tiny slug-like predators that devour aphids by the dozens every single day. This isn't a garden rumor. Drive through California's Central Coast, and if you see a lettuce field packed with little white alyssum flowers, it's almost guaranteed to be an organic operation. Growers there have used alyssum for years, specifically because it's such an effective way to control aphids, our old friend from pest number 3, without spraying anything. USDA researchers spent nearly a decade proving how well it works. A single hoverfly larva can eat hundreds of aphids before it grows up. And here's a bonus. Those same hoverfly larvae, along with the parasitic wasps that alyssum also attracts, don't stop at aphids. They also go after thrips, which is pest number 8. Thrips are slender, almost invisible insects that rasp at leaves and flowers, leaving silvery streaks and scarring on your produce. The predators that alyssum recruits will hunt them down too. So by planting one cheap, sweet-smelling ground cover, you turn your garden into a hunting ground for beneficial bugs that never send you a bill. Number 4, calendula. Calendula, sometimes called pot marigold even though it's a different plant, is the multitasker of this list. It works both as a magnet for good bugs and as a trap crop for bad ones, which makes it incredibly versatile. On the beneficial side, calendula's bright orange and yellow blooms draw in ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies, and parasitic wasps. Ladybugs alone are legendary aphid hunters, and their larvae are even hungrier than the adults. So once again, aphids don't stand much of a chance when calendula is nearby. But calendula's real party trick is that it's a pest magnet in the best possible way. Because it's so attractive to sapsuckers, it pulls whiteflies, our pest number 2, and thrips, pest number 8, away from your more valuable and vulnerable plants like tomatoes and roses. The bad bugs cluster on the calendula, and your vegetables stay clean. The sticky little hairs on calendula foliage even help trap whiteflies in the general area. There's a nice strategic angle here too. If you notice a lot of pests piling onto your calendula, that's not a failure. That's the plant doing its job. You've concentrated the problem in one spot where it's easy to deal with instead of letting it spread across your whole garden. And like nasturtium, calendula is edible, so the petals can go straight into a salad. Number 5, cosmos. Cosmos brings tall, airy, daisy-like flowers in gorgeous pastels and brights, and it fits neatly into rows between your vegetable crops. But it's not just there to look pretty. Cosmos is one of the best flowers you can grow for pulling in 3 of the most valuable predators in the garden. Cosmos is a magnet for parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and lacewings. Now don't let the word wasp scare you. These aren't the aggressive picnic crashers. Parasitic wasps are tiny, often no bigger than a gnat, and they're your allies. The female hunts down pest caterpillars and lays her eggs inside them, and the developing wasp consumes the pest from the inside out. It's grim, but it's exactly the kind of natural control that keeps a garden balanced. That means Cosmos is a serious weapon against caterpillars in general, including the cabbage worms and loopers we talked about, pests 4 and 5. But the lacewings that Cosmos attracts bring us to a new target, spider mites, which is pest number 9. Spider mites are almost too small to see, but you'll notice their fine webbing on the undersides of leaves and a stippled, dusty look to the foliage as they suck the life out of your plants, especially in hot, dry weather. Lacewing larvae, nicknamed aphid lions, are voracious and will happily devour spider mites along with aphids and other soft-bodied pests. So a row of Cosmos between your beds isn't wasted space. It's a recruiting station for some of the hardest working predators in the insect world, and Cosmos practically grows itself once the weather warms up, self-seeding year after year. Number 6, borage. Borage is the underdog of this list, a slightly wild-looking herb with fuzzy stems and beautiful star-shaped blue flowers that taste faintly of cucumber. Gardeners who know about borage tend to plant it everywhere, and once you understand what it does, you'll see why. First, borage is one of the classic companions for tomatoes, and it's specifically credited with deterring the tomato hornworm, pest number 10. If you've ever found a fat, green 3-inch caterpillar with a little horn on its rear end munching through your tomato plant overnight, you've met the hornworm. They're shockingly destructive for how quickly they appear. Borage planted among tomatoes is a time-honored way to discourage them. Borage also helps repel the cabbage worm, tying back to our brassica pests. But its most surprising contribution is against slugs and snails, which together make up pest number 11. These slimy night feeders chew big, irregular holes in leaves and can shred tender seedlings before you even know they've arrived. Borage acts as a trap for them, drawing slugs and snails toward itself and away from your lettuce and greens. On top of all that, borage is a powerhouse for attracting beneficial insects. Its flowers pull in bees for pollination and bring in hoverflies, lacewings, and parasitic wasps, the same predator crew that hunts your aphids, caterpillars, and mites. Borage self-seeds readily, so plant it once, and you'll likely have volunteers popping up to protect your garden for seasons to come. Number 7, chrysanthemums. We've saved the heavy hitter for last. Chrysanthemums, the same mums you see decorating porches every fall, contain one of the most powerful natural insecticides on the planet, a compound called pyrethrin. Pyrethrin is produced in the flower heads as the plant's own chemical defense, and it attacks an insect's nervous system, causing rapid paralysis and death on contact. In fact, pyrethrin is the active ingredient in a huge number of commercial organic bug sprays. It's genuinely one of the reasons pyrethrin-based products fill the shelves of garden centers, because it works fast and breaks down quickly in sunlight, usually within about a day, so it doesn't linger in the environment. Simply having chrysanthemums growing in the garden lends some protection, but the real power comes when you dry the flower heads, crush them into a powder, and use that homemade pyrethrum around the garden. This natural insecticide is effective against an enormous range of pests. It knocks out leafhoppers, pest number 12, those wedge-shaped green insects that hop away when disturbed and spread plant diseases as they feed. It hammers ants, pest number 13, which farm and protect aphid colonies and can turn into a real nuisance. And it takes on mosquitoes, pest number 14, the summer scourge that turns every evening in the yard into a slapping contest. Pyrethrin from chrysanthemums also handles a whole grab bag of other troublemakers, but the 15th pest worth naming here is the Colorado potato beetle, pest number 15. These striped yellow and black beetles, along with their plump red larvae, can defoliate a potato patch with alarming speed, and they've grown resistant to many synthetic chemicals over the years. Pyrethrin remains one of the botanical tools gardeners reach for to keep them in check. One important word of caution though, because pyrethrin is so potent, it doesn't discriminate. It will kill beneficial insects like bees and ladybugs just as readily as the pests if it hits them directly. So, if you make your own pyrethrum spray, use it sparingly. Apply it in small targeted spots and spray in the evening when your good bugs, the pollinators and predators you spent this whole video trying to attract aren't out working. Used carefully, chrysanthemum-based pest control is a fantastic organic backstop for the toughest infestations. And there you have it. 15 of the worst garden pests sent packing by just 7 flowers, most of which cost about $1 a packet and practically grow themselves. Plant a few of these among your vegetables this season, skip the chemicals, and let nature do the heavy lifting. Thanks for watching. If this gave you some useful ideas, hit that like button and share it with a fellow gardener, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a video.